Hello friends, this is Ankur from FinstudyClub. Um, this is a very pertinent topic that we are facing right now as to when to use free cash flow to firm as a parameter of cash flow or to use the dividend. Now one thing is very clear that the answers that I'm going to get by using free cash flow to firm, doesn't matter free cash flow to equity or to firm, the answers that I'm going to get here are going to be different than the answers that I'm going to get here. So therefore the question becomes much more relevant, and I have to be very clear in my fundamentals as to the suitability of a particular method according to that particular situation. But answer may be important, but it is very easy to understand, and it is already understood if you have understood the difference between the dividend and the free cash flows. Dividend is the portion of the pool that is distributed to the shareholders. So if I am valuing my equity from the point of view of that shareholder who do not have any control over the pool but have control only on the dividend that he gets in his pocket, then I will obviously call it a minority interest stakeholder. I'm going to come to that, and for that shareholder is what my dividend discount model is more relevant. So I'm making a general point. From an investor's perspective, I'm going to use that parameter which is under my control. So if I'm a minority stakeholder in a particular company, let's say I have a 40% stake, then I do not take decisions. It's only the significant influence that comes to me, which is only a power of being heard. The decision is being taken by a controlling party. So I cannot decide what will happen to the worth which is lying on the table, which is lying in the pool, unless and until 40% of the total dividend is given to me, enters my pocket, and it is that amount which is under my discretion. So if I have to make an assessment of my investment's value, then it is only this particular portion which comes into my pocket which is under my discretion. But imagine if I was the controller, I had the the management under my control. I was in a position to decide what is going to happen to this pool. Will it be distributed, if at all? Will it be invested into capital assets or whatever? So I am able to exercise my control on this pool overall, not on the amount that enters my pocket only. Okay, so therefore this pool becomes relevant from my valuation, and that's where the free cash flow to firm is preferred over the dividend. Now, I'm not making a point. Now, please don't misunderstand me that I'm saying that even if I have 51% stake, the cash flow parameter that I'm going to plot are going to be for 100%. Absolutely not. The proportionate parameter will only be plotted. The only relevant point that I'm trying to make is 51% of what will be plotted. Will it be of dividend which enters your pocket, or 51% of the total pool is what you control? So what is relevant is the portion generated versus the portion distributed. So if I am in a position to influence the portion generated, I would be in a position only when I will be the controlling interest shareholder. Okay, so that's the context that you got to decide it. Now, between free cash flow to firm versus free cash flow to equity, I would obviously prefer the free cash flow to equity, and we have seen that because it gives me directly the value of equity. If I would have used free cash flow to firm, then I would have got the value of firm, and then I would have to do an additional step of deducting the market value of debt. And why should I do that when I have the other parameter ready for me? But the only challenge is in two situations where the free cash flow to equity is not as suitable. Those two situations are when the capital structure is very volatile, okay, and the second is when the leverage is very high. So there is a risk of free cash flow to equity becoming negative. So you might be thinking, if the leverage is very high, why would free cash flow to firm not be negative? Why would it not be affected? So I will again take you back to the same funnel approach in which the free cash flow to firm was above the payment etc. that you would make to the debt holder. So whatever is a turbulence happening beneath this line, it is under this line, and this level is not affected. yes, free cash flow to equity is something which is going to be affected because the leverage is above this line. So this is again the same fundamentals that we have built, and therefore they are not very difficult to understand. So just kind of wrapping it up, there are other problems with the dividend discount model. We cannot use it for companies which pay very low or let's say no dividend, or in fact I cannot be using DDM for firms which pay exactly the fixed dividend per share. Doesn't matter how much amount of earnings does it does it kind of accrue to. Now this is also an important parameter, and this connects me to the first reading of this entire dividend discount model, wherein I had made a point when I was comparing the free cash flow to residual income and the dividend discount model. There I had made a point that my idea of finding the intrinsic value is to find out the real capability of the firm. If my dividend is absolutely fixed irrespective of my earning capability, then dividend loses its relevance. I want, if the earning capacities are going up, I want the intrinsic value also to go up. If I'm using the reflection of the earning capacity through the dividend, then dividend should also fluctuate in proportion to the earning capacity. Only then I will call that my dividend is a relevant parameter. So imagine a situation where the company is not doing well at all. The earning capabilities are going down, but because of the company's fixed dividend policy, your dividend per share is still going strong at $5 a share. So the present value that I'm going to get is exactly the same, although the earning capacity is going down. So this is again the point that we have highlighted. I am therefore kind of not dwelling on it much further. So it says that it may not reflect the firm's profitability is the point that we just kind of raised, and we also are making a point that if the company is being acquired or is a target under a merger and acquisition, then what you're valuing the company for is the overall control, and since the controller's perspective, the free cash flow to firm is any day a better methodology. So the advantages of free cash flow to firm again is quite repetition. It could be used with firms having no dividend. It helps the company. It helps the analyst to analyze and understand the company inside out. Now understand this point. While I plotted the dividend, it was very easy to find out the dividend because they were generally given in the question. So I started with something which was given in the question, and it is there in the practical life. It is the amount that comes out of the company. Now what happens in the company, behind those walls, is something that we don't know. Free cash flow to firm is with the company. It has not come out of the company. The moment it comes out, it is called as dividend. So this is the point that I was trying to make earlier, that dividend is what is distributed and what is generated is still within the walls. So if you want to project something which is within the walls, you must understand all the intricacies of the company, the way it functions, the DNA of the company much better than if you were to follow a normal dividend discount model. Okay, so those were the advantages, but there are obviously some disadvantages as well. Like for every model, that your free cash flow to firm could be negative. Both free cash flow to firm as well as free cash flow to equity, both could be negative due to high capital expenditure, in which case your this model loses its relevance. But again, the counterpoint is, if the free cash flows are negative, would the company be paying some kind of a dividend? Answer is most likely no. So in this particular situation, even dividend discount model will lose its relevance, and that is the point, where the residual income is something that catches up. Okay, so we'll come at residual income much later. So the second and a biggest disadvantage of free cash flow model, that since it is very complicated, it needs the very thorough understanding of the FRA, the cash flow statements, the what is capex, what is PAT, how it is arrived at, what are the EBIT, what is operationing, etc. So we will get on to all that in our next video. I hope that the why to use, let's say when to use a particular model is clear, and I will take your leave right now, and we'll speak to you soon on the calculation methodology of FCFF and FCFE. Okay, so stay tuned for more such sessions. Should you have any problem, reach out to me at ankur.k@finstudyclub.com. Thank you very much.